In a surprise announcement, the January 6th committee said today that it will hold a hearing tomorrow, after previously saying that the next hearing would come in July. The committee says the 1 p.m. hearing will, quote, present recently obtained evidence and include new witness testimony. There's been no word on what that evidence is or who, in fact, will be testifying. But what we do know is that for the committee to turn around a hearing so quickly, the evidence and testimony must be highly compelling. Why else would the committee's 9 members return from their districts rather than just wait until after the July 4 recess? Joining me now is Hugo Lowell, congressional reporter for The Guardian. And Hugo, is there any kind of hint at all what kind of witness this is? Is it a potentially someone from the from the administration, one of the attorneys, any kind of clues whatsoever?
I think we have more information right now as to who it's not going to be, as opposed to who it is going to be. But you can do a sort of process of elimination a little bit. So according to my sourcing and my reporting, Mo Brooks, the congressman from Alabama, is not expected to testify before the committee publicly tomorrow, nor is Pat Cipollone, the former White House counsel. We don't think that former Vice President Pence is going to testify. And so that kind of narrows down the list of people that could make an appearance tomorrow. But the one thing we do know, right, based on the notice, it's an emergency hearing. As you said, they are convening this hearing, members flying back in a bit of an emergency, which suggests to me that they're really concerned about 2 things. First of all, they're concerned about potential leaks about what could come in the hearing, or kind of, it's like video footage or some sort of photo. The other thing they're worried about is potentially that if the name of the person who's testifying leaks, then Trump or his allies might get to that witness. They might kind of try and obstruct their testimony in some way, and they really want to protect against that. So I think that's as much information we can concretely say we have now.
Now, you said that it is definitely not Mo Brooks, but there were other members of Congress who also reportedly at least raised the pardon question. We haven't seen a member of Congress testify yet, but I just want to play some of the members who allegedly did ask for pardons. Take a look.
Mr. Gates had reached out to me to ask if he could have a meeting with Mr. Meadows about receiving a presidential pardon.
Did they all contact you?
Not all of them, but several of them did.
So you mentioned Mr. Gates, Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Biggs did. Mr. Jordan talked about congressional pardons, but he never asked me for one. Mr. Gomer asked for one as well. Mr. Perry asked for a pardon too. I'm sorry, I need to cut
Mr. Perry, did he talk to you directly?
Yes, he did.
Did Marjorie Taylor Greene contact you?
No, she didn't contact me about it. I heard that she had asked White House counsel's office for a pardon from Mr. Philbin, but I didn't frequently communicate with Ms. Greene.
If you think about who could be scrambled quickly to potentially testify and who hasn't testified as yet, you do have multiple members of Congress, including the congressman who recommended Jeffrey Clark to become the new head of the Department of Justice. Is there a sense, just from your reporting, at least sort of the way that the Hill is vibing, that the idea here could be that the reason for concern with security is that a member of Congress is somehow implicated in the testimony tomorrow?
I don't know if we can read that much into it right now. I think it's still very fluid. I think the committee is trying to establish exactly what it wants to run through tomorrow. The fact that a member of Congress is testifying is possible. I think the most likely person to have testified is probably going to have been Mo Brooks, but he tells me tonight that he's not expected to testify tomorrow. I think the vibe on the Hill is really looking towards the documentary film that has emerged in recent days. Alex Holder, the British filmmaker, that had unprecedented access to Trump and his kids. And one thing that the committee is very focused on is a number of phone calls that took place before the election, the night of the first debate, because the filmmaker managed to capture on camera, and I can break some news here, Eric Trump on the phone with a person that is unidentified talking about how they should vote. And he specifically said, quote, "Hopefully you're voting in Florida as opposed to another state that you've mentioned." So it's not quite clear what's going on with that conversation, but the committee is very focused on this event that happened at the Trump International Hotel on the 29th of September. So we might see more of that tomorrow.
Interesting. The other thing that broke today is that John Eastman's phone, another person that could be a very great interest here, that his phone was seized by federal agents. Do you have any updates on that?
It was a really interesting seizure, right? Because Eastman, in his filing, said it was FBI agents, 6 FBI agents came and seized his phone, and they produced a warrant eventually, and they made him unlock his phone. It's not exactly clear the circumstances surrounding that, but I think it's interesting that they served a warrant through the auspices of the DOJ Office of Inspector General. That's really interesting, and it points to more of an internal probe, because we know the DOJ has been investigating Trump's corruption of the Justice Department around trying to overturn the 2020 election. So it may suggest an investigation into that. It may be criminal, it may not be criminal. Eastman may be a target, he may be a fact witness. It's not clear, but the fact that it comes from the OIG is very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. Hugo Lowell, thank you very much. Really appreciate you.